Chapter 7 Phonology 1. Definition. Whoever consciously deprives himself of the perceptible image of the written word runs the risk of perceiving only a shapeless and unmanageable mass. Taking away the written form is like depriving a beginning swimmer of his life belt. To substitute immediately what is natural for what is artificial would be desirable, but this is impossible without first studying the sounds of language. Apart from their graphic symbols, sounds are only vague notions, and the prop provided by writing, though deceptive, is still preferable. The first linguists, who knew nothing about the physiology of articulated sounds, were constantly falling into a trap. To me, it means a first step in the direction of truth, for the study of sounds themselves furnishes the desired prop. Modern linguists have finally seen the light. Pursuing for their own ends investigations started by others, physiologists, theoreticians of singing, etc., they have given linguists an auxiliary science that has freed it from the written word. The physiology of sounds, German Laut or Sprachphysiologie, is often called phonetics, French phonétique, German phonetic. To me this name seems inappropriate. Instead, I shall use phonology. For phonetics first designated, and should continue to designate, the study of the evolutions of sounds. Two absolutely distinct disciplines should not be lumped together under the same name. Phonetics is a historical science. It analyzes events and changes and moves through time. Phonology is outside time, for the articulatory mechanism never changes. The two studies are distinct but not opposites. Phonetics is a basic part of the science of language. Phonology, this bears repeating, is only an auxiliary discipline and belongs exclusively to speaking. Just what phonational movements could accomplish if language did not exist is not clear. But they do not constitute language, and even after we have explained all the movements of the vocal apparatus necessary for the production of each auditory impression, we have in no way illuminated the problem of language. It is a system based on mental opposition of auditory impressions, just as a tapestry is a work of art produced by the visual oppositions of threads of different colors. The important thing in analysis is the role of the oppositions, not the process through which the colors were obtained. An outline of the phonological system is given in the appendix. Here I am trying merely to determine the extent to which phonology can help linguistics to escape the delusions of writing. 2. Phonological writing. The linguist needs, above all else, a means of transcribing articulated sounds that will rule out all ambiguity. Actually, countless graphic systems have been proposed. First, there should be one symbol for each element of the spoken chain. This requirement is not always considered. Thus, English phonologists, concerned with classification rather than analysis, have 2- and 3-letter symbols for certain sounds. Second, there should be some means of making a rigid distinction between implosive and explosive sounds. Are there grounds for substituting a phonological alphabet for a system already in use? Here I can only broach this interesting subject. I think that phonological writing should be for the use of linguists only. First, how would it be possible to make the English, Germans, French, etc. adopt the uniform system? Next, an alphabet applicable to all languages would probably be weighed down by diacritical marks. And to say nothing of the distressing appearance of a page of phonological writing. Attempts to gain precision would obviously confuse the reader by obscuring what the writing was designed to express. The advantages would not be sufficient to compensate for the inconveniences. Phonological exactitude is not very desirable outside science. Reading is another issue. We read in two ways. A new or unknown word is spelled out letter by letter, but a common ordinary word is embraced by a single glance, independently of its letters, so that the image of the whole word acquires an ideographic value. Here traditional orthography takes revenge. It is useful to distinguish between French ton, so much, and temps, weather. And is, and have. Du, of the, and du, had to. Il devait, he owed, and il devait, they owed, etc. Let us hope only that the most flagrant absurdities of writing will be eliminated. Although a phonological alphabet is helpful in the teaching of languages, its use should not be generalized. 3. Validity of evidence furnished by writing. One must not think that spelling reform should immediately follow the realization that writing is deceptive. The genuine contribution of phonology is in providing precautionary measures for dealing with the written form through which we must pass in order to reach language. Evidence furnished by writing is valid only when interpreted. We must draw up for each language studied a phonological system, it is, a description of the sounds with which it functions. For each language operates on a fixed number of well-differentiated phonemes. This system is the only set of facts that interests the linguist. Graphic symbols bear but a faint resemblance to it. The difficulty of determining the accuracy of the resemblance varies according to the idiom and circumstances. The linguist who deals with the language of the past has only indirect data at his disposal. What resources can he use in setting up its phonological system? 1. First and foremost is external evidence, especially contemporary descriptions of the sounds and pronunciations of the period. French grammarians of the 16th and 17th centuries, especially those interested in teaching foreigners, left us many interesting observations. But the information contained in the writings of contemporaries is often vague, for the authors have no phonological method. The terminology of their descriptions is whimsical and lacks scientific precision. The result is that their evidence must in turn be interpreted. Names given to sounds, for instance, are often misleading. Greek grammarians called voiced b, d, g, etc. middle consonants, mesai, and voiceless p, t, k, etc. psilai, which Latin grammarians translated by tenues. 2. More accurate information will result from combining external data with internal evidence, which I shall class under two headings. A. The first class comprises evidence based on the regularity of phonetic evolutions. Knowing what sound a letter stood for during another period is important in determining the value of that letter. Its present value is the result of an evolution that allows us to cast aside certain hypotheses from the outset. For instance, the exact value of Sanskrit cisadilla is unknown, but the fact that it replaced palatal Proto-Indo-European K clearly limits the field of conjecture. If the linguist knows both the point of departure and the parallel evolution of similar sounds of a particular language during the same period. He can use analogical reasoning and set up a proportion. The problem is naturally easier if the object is to determine an intermediate pronunciation when both the starting point and the end result are known. French O, exemple gratia in sauter, jump, must have been a diphthong during the Middle Ages, for it is halfway between older al and modern o. And if we learn by some other means that the diphthong still existed at a particular moment, we are safe in assuming that it also existed during the preceding period. We do not know exactly what Z stands for in a word like Old High German Wasser, but our guideposts are the older form water on the one hand and modern German Wasser on the other. The Z must be a sound halfway between T and S. We can reject any hypothesis that fails to consider both T and S. To hold that Z stands for a palatal sound, for example, would be impossible, for only a dental articulation can logically come between two other dental articulations. B. There are several types of contemporary evidence. Spelling differences furnish one of many types. During one period, we find that Old High German has Wasser, sehen, etzen, but never Wasser, sehen, etc. When we find the forms esen and essen, Wasser and Wasser, etc., however, we easily conclude that the sound of Z was close to S, but different from the sound that C stood for during the same period. The subsequent appearance of such forms as Wasser proves that the two originally distinct phonemes became somewhat mingled. Poetic texts are invaluable documents in the study of pronunciation. They furnish many types of information, depending on whether the system of versification is based on the number of syllables, quantity, or similarity of sounds, alliteration, assonance, and rhyme. Greek indicated certain long vowels in writing, exempli gratia or transcribed omega, but not others. We must consult the poets in order to find out about the quantity of a, e, and u. Thus, rhyme allows us to determine until what period the final consonants of Old French gra and fa, Latin fuck you, I do, were different, and from what moment they were brought together and merged. Rhyme and assonance also show that e, derived from Latin a, was not pronounced like other es. Exempli gratia per father from patrum, tel, such from talem, me, see from mare. These words never appear in rhyme or assonance with elle, she, from illa, vert, green, from viridem, belle, beautiful, from bella, etc. Finally, there is the evidence furnished by the spelling of loan words, puns, cock and bull stories, etc. In Gothic, for example, cautio reveals information about the pronunciation of cautio in Vulgar Latin. That French roi, king, was pronounced roi at the end of the 18th century is attested by the following story cited by Nirop, Grammaire historique de la langue française, page 178. A woman who had been brought before the revolutionary tribunal was asked whether she had not said in the presence of witnesses that a king, roi, was needed. She replied that she was not speaking of a king like Capet or the others at all, but of a roué maître, spinning wheel, all the foregoing procedures help us to acquire some knowledge of the phonological system of a period, as well as to interpret and use profitably the evidence furnished by writing. In dealing with a living language, the only rational method consists of a. Setting up the system of sounds as revealed by direct observation, and b. Observing the system of signs using to represent, imperfectly, these sounds. Many grammarians still hold to the old method that I have criticized and simply tell how each letter is pronounced in the language they wish to describe. By using the older method, however, they cannot present clearly the phonological system of an idiom. Nevertheless, great strides in the right direction have already been taken, and phonologists have made an important contribution toward reforming our ideas about writing and spelling.